The Mali Empire, an empire that changed West Africa forever, and was one of Africa's greatest empires, in my humble opinion. Famous for its gold, its slaves, and Mansa Musa, one of the richest men in history, and arguably the richest man of them all. But few people know that he came to power after the previous Mansa, Abukari, would leave with 2,000 ships on an expedition into the Atlantic Ocean, never to be heard from again. But what if Mansa Abukari, or Mansa Q, as I shall refer to him for the rest of the video, was successful in his expedition, and the Mansa survived? Let's say that the expedition of 2,000 ships survives. Where would they land? Given that they came from West Africa and knowing the Atlantic Sea currents, they would likely land in the Guyanas. And it would be there where the first colonies would begin. And after a few years there, I am sure that the Mansa will return to Mali, which could result in two things. Mansa Musa gives up the throne, or he doesn't. I feel it will end in Mansa Q winning in either situation, so I'm just going to say for the sake of time that he gives up the throne. Which would mean a few things. There would be a greater focus on the growing and expanding of the American colonies. The Mali Empire probably wouldn't conquer the cities such as Gao and Timbuktu, along with others, due to the fact that Mansa Q was a bit more of a peaceful ruler from the short years he was in power, from what we know. And there wouldn't be a grand pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, this last one is pretty important, considering that the pilgrimage to Mecca brought a lot of talent back to the empire, allowing the buildings of schools in their homeland, and making them into a more important Muslim empire. And without the cities of Gao and Timbuktu, they would not be as wealthy, I think, considering that the conquest of such cities brought such wealth to their empire, considering that these cities were all situated at important trade points. Now, to say that this would never happen, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that this would happen eventually. Someone would try to make a grand pilgrimage to Mecca, or someone would conquer the cities of Gao and Timbuktu, along with others. I feel that it's a matter of the Mansa at the time. Now with that, let's get into the American colonies. The colonies in the Americas would grow, and I imagine the American colonies would span from the Bahamas to the northern Brazil in the early 1400s. Now, we must talk about an important factor here, the natives. Now, what would happen to them? I imagine diseases such as smallpox would still happen and still devastate them. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mali Empire decides to leave the Aztec Empire, which still exists at this point, considering they've existed since 1325, alone, in favor of trade. But they still could go after them like Spain did, and make them a part of the Mali Empire's colonies. In terms of religion, I believe some native peoples would convert to Islam, but I imagine some native religions, well, many native religions, would still be practiced. Reason why is due to the Mali Empire being somewhat of a multicultural empire. Because unlike its northern neighbors, Islam came to the Mali Empire due to its benefits, such as Arabic writing, religious law, among other things, and not through conquest. Plus, not trying to convert the natives to Islam would allow them to turn those native peoples into slaves, due to their laws saying only non-Muslims could become slaves. With newfound wealth from its colonies and newly conquered territories in Africa, it would be reasonable that the Mali Empire would expand throughout West Africa and have a stronger grip over the whole region. By the year 1454, the Mali colonies would spread from the middle of Mexico to North Argentina, in my mind. Now, I must mention that the year 1454 is important. Why? Well, that would be the year that Portugal and the Mali Empire meet. And with this meeting, I imagine Portugal would learn about the New World. But the game would be very changed. Mali has been there for over a century at this point, and there'll be a lot less land to colonize now. There could be wars against the Mali Empire, but I imagine them being difficult, and I imagine that Portugal would seek trade with the Mali Empire rather than an all-out war for at least a while, maybe even an alliance. Now, would Mali have a direct affair in European conflicts? They are they're quite a distance away from Europe. So if a continental war such as the 30 Years' War or the Napoleonic Wars to happen, it wouldn't affect Mali much unless it spilled over into other continents, considering that they're in Africa and European wars are in Europe, obviously. So I imagine Mali would play an important part on the world stage, but I highly doubt that they would get into war with European powers until a war grew so big it spread multiple continents, such as the 7 Years' War. But I wouldn't be surprised if European powers started wars against them. After all, they are a Muslim nation, and there were already wars between Catholics and Protestants in this period, so I wouldn't be surprised if wars broke out against them to repel the Muslim invaders from these lands. But it would be difficult. They may not have guns, particularly early in their history, but after some time I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to trade heavily for guns, considering they have so much gold in their empire. And it will be there I shall stop. For things in history at this point would become iffy. Mali, rising up to become a colonial empire, would cause countless, well not countless, but many alternate wars in this history. The effects would be enormous, but that doesn't mean you guys can't debate it in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye everyone. Expect the next video on Saturday or Sunday. This is D signing out.